Hello and good day to all you wonderful horror freaks out there on the internet. I am back with another top 10 list from the not always so beloved horror decade of the 1990s, and the year I will be talking about today is 1995. Although this is not a year where you can list up horror classics after horror classics, it overall was a step up from the previous years in all around quality. Instead of struggling with finding 10 movies worthy of being included, I had more headache this year in the decision of which one would not make the final cut. And you will be seeing the ones that nearly made it run across the screen until we get to the countdown of the top 10. There were some bigger releases that I did not include, that I'm sure some of you would have wanted to see make it. Some notable ones are Halloween 6 The Curse of Michael Myers, John Carpenter's Village of the Damned, The Addiction, Castle Freak, and The Mangler. Yeah, I do believe that there are some Mangler fans out there. If you are one, then speak your truth as the kids say, and declare your love for The Mangler. The majority of the ones that did make the top 10 seems to have a common thread in that they all went for entertainment. Many of them blend their horror with other genres like action and comedy. When a talented filmmaker is able to hit all of those spots at once, you usually end up with crowd-pleasing results. Asian cinema is heavily represented with 3 entries, 2 from Hong Kong and 1 from Japan, and we have 2 European ones as well, 1 from Spain and the other one from the neighbors in Sweden. So it's safe to say that I should have something for everyone here. As always, this list is my personal opinion, and you are more than welcome to disagree with it and post what you believe the top 10 from this year should be in the comment section below. Now let's get started. I am Torstein from CinemaTerror, and this is the top 10 horror movies of 1995. We start off at number 10 with some slasher fun in The Fair. What we have here is a typical horror movie setup, with a bunch of students heading out to a cabin in the woods. They are there to examine their own personal fears, and they will find something new to be scared of, as a life-size wooden mannequin called Morty comes to life and starts to kill them off one by one. Just when you might have thought the slasher genre had gone stale on concepts, we get this awesome Morty figure, and I love this guy. He's equally great and stupid, so I have no trouble with him being the big bad villain in a movie like this. The Fair resurrects the 80s slasher feel, while still attempting to do something new, especially with the characters. Not all of that stuff work, and I'm sure the long time it takes before Morty starts to wreak havoc on them will be off-putting to some, but I can still appreciate the effort that was put into this. It also helps that the soundtrack kicks ass, as it is basically a compilation of mid-90s horrorcore music, which is right up my alley. So yeah, The Fair is definitively something worth checking out for fans of 90s horror. And if you enjoy it, then make sure to also check out the sequel from 1999 called The Fair Resurrection. I'm happy that this one was able to sneak itself into the top 10, as it is a movie I don't hear many talk about. So give it a chance and pick up the Blu-ray, released by Vinegar Syndrome of course, to enjoy The Fair and the cameo from Wes Craven in full glory.
The fear is whatever scares you the most.
At number 9 we get a big budget effort with the sci-fi horror Species. This $35 million production by MGM stars Natasha Henstridge as a female alien who is on a mission to get pregnant by a human male. The government sets up a task force with a variety of skills including telepathy, scientists and even a mercenary. They have to track down this alien sex bomb before she is able to create an offspring, as her alien race has incredible powers and will become a huge threat to us all. Quite a schlocky plot for such a big production. Species is a fun, fast-paced mixture of action, science fiction and horror. While Species didn't receive the best critical response, and how would it, as it is a film that wants to entertain genre fans, it still made a good amount at the box office and would spawn a total of 3 sequels to date. I haven't seen any of them, and the last 2 would be released direct to DVD and onto the Sci-Fi Channel, which is not a good sign. Species is basically a B-movie with some actual money put behind it and a big talented cast, so I think this will be a fun watch for other fans of sci-fi horror. If you haven't checked this one out yet, and you like the idea of a horny alien coming down to Earth to kick ass, then Species should find its way onto your watch list.
Open the damn door!
Oh God.
Moving on to number 8, and we travel to the low-budget world of Japan with Eko Eko Asarak, Wizard of Darkness. This is the start of a series of movies and even a television show revolving around the young girl Misa. She has supernatural powers and has to use them against all kinds of evil entities. Think of the series as a Japanese low-budget take on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, with some of the craft added to it. Misa and the Dark Avengers were based on a manga series by Shinichi Kuga that first ran from 1976 to 1979. In this first movie adaptation, Wizard of Darkness, Misa starts to study at a new school where black magic activities are taking place, and she has to figure out the mystery of what is going on before more and more people get hurt by these evil powers. Wizard of Darkness is a crazy movie and lots of fun. There's plenty of twists and turns, it has a young talented cast and a hard-working director in Shimako Sato, who also returned to do the second Eko Eko Asarak. There's some cool practical effects, some not so good 90s CGI effects, and the movie just goes for it to make it as entertaining as possible. I enjoyed it so much when I first saw it that I did a full video review of the film, and later on I have even covered the first 2 sequels. So if you want to experience the fun and violent adventures of Misa, then grab your witch book filled with evil spells and hunt down this little gem of a movie called Eko Eko Asarak, Wizard of Darkness. At number 7 we say welcome back to my favorite horror movie villain of the 90s with Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh. This follow-up to arguably the best horror movie of the 1990s was doomed to be a step down in quality. Sequels to horror movies in the 90s usually meant lesser budget and often releases directly to VHS, so it did have the odds stacked against it from the very start. The direct-to-video fate did not happen with Candyman Farewell to the Flesh, as it did get a theatrical screening and did make over $30 million at the box office. But its legacy is not filled with often heard of praise, now over 25 years later, and I'm not sure as to exactly why. Farewell to the Flesh continues the story of Candyman, while also expanding upon the backstory of Daniel Robitaille, as was his human name. The legendary and iconic villain has set his eyes on a new young woman, who shares a connection with him through her bloodline. The story of Farewell to the Flesh might leave something to be desired, and at times feels like it is rehashing too much from the first one, but the movie is still filled with great atmosphere and some great moments. Tony Todd is once again powerful as a titular character, and Bill Condon does a competent job on his first horror movie as a director. Condon would go on to find great success for himself by directing 2 of the Twilight movies, and he has yet to return to our beloved horror genre. Candyman Farewell to the Flesh is an unexpected step down from the first Candyman, but it is a sequel that should satisfy many fans of the first film. I have a feeling that a lot of people never checked this one out, or perhaps just forgot about it. So if you are one of them, then give it a chance or a second chance. If nothing else, it is at least much better than the third and final one out of the 90s trilogy. So turn your lights off and say his name 5 times in front of a mirror. It might not scare you as much as the first time he did it. Oh wait, what am I saying? We both know that no one ever survives doing that. Candyman Farewell to the Flesh, well deserving of getting a mention in this year's top 10.
In a motion picture that ends what the first one barely started. Candyman. Farewell to the Flesh.
We are going batshit crazy at number 6 with the absolute bonkers Hong Kong comedy, horror, fantasy, insanity called The Eternal Evil of Asia. I don't even know where to start when it comes to describing the plot of Eternal Evil of Asia. Not that the story even matters, as this is made for those of us who absolutely adore Hong Kong madness. From what I could understand, this is basically a revenge story, as a group of Chinese friends travel to Thailand for a weekend of drunken fun. And as often happens with us party tourists, they get involved in black magic and accidentally ends up killing the sister of a witch doctor. The witch doctor follows them home and uses all of his dark power to hurt both them and whoever is close to them. The Eternal Evil of Asia is filled with craziness from start to finish, and for fans of this stuff, this one will be an essential watch. It's Hong Kong dark comedy at its finest, and while this is not for everyone, It will be a delight for those of us who can laugh at people being transformed into dickheads, a dude who eats his own arm, ghostly rapes, and all other kinds of indescribable insanity that only the lovely people from Hong Kong could deliver in such a comedic fashion. Of course, and this probably goes without saying, this is not a movie for horror fans who are after scares or chilling atmosphere. It's not even for those who want an engaging story. It's too bad that they don't make movies like this anymore, but thanks to physical media, we can always travel back to the wonder years of Hong Kong cinema and enjoy amazing stuff like The Eternal Evil of Asia. We are now over the halfway mark, and at number 5 we have one of the best horror anthologies of the 1990s with Tales from the Hood. This strong horror anthology comes from director and co-writer Rusty Cundieff, who had made his directorial debut only 2 years prior with the mockumentary Fear of a Black Hat. With Tales from the Hood, Cundieff was able to tell 4 different stories that all had a current connection with the African American community in the United States. All stories have something different to offer, and we are even blessed with the appearance of Wings Hauser in one of them. My favorite segment is the third one, KKK Comeuppance, which takes place at a former slave plantation where victims of brutal acts from the past come back to get some much deserved revenge. I did a video about this movie 5 years ago, and in that video I said I was surprised at how good this was, and I hadn't really heard anyone talk about it. Since then, the movie has had a bit of resurgence, and finally started to receive the attention that it deserves. Scream Factory did their usual great work when they released it on Blu-ray in 2017, and the new attention even made it possible for Cundieff to return with 2 new sequels, one in 2018 and the last one 2 years later. Tales from the Hood is a lot of fun, and even sparks a killer, gritty hip-hop soundtrack that I can appreciate. So if you still haven't checked this one out, then seek it out, as Tales from the Hood is definitively worth your time and is well deserving of getting a respectable spot on this list.
Tales from the Hood. Chew. Or be chewed.
Hey man, I don't need to be hearing this, man.
At number 4, we travel up to my parts of the world, as this was the year our neighbors in Sweden delivered their most outrageous and fun movie yet with Evil Ed. In Evil Ed we follow, well, Ed, who gets the assignment of editing together new entries to the gruesome gore series Loose Limbs. The brutal torture that these movies provide becomes too much for the fragile, innocent Swedish mind of Ed, and it doesn't take long before he starts to transition into the maniacal Evil Ed, or Swedish Ed as I like to call him. I did a full video on this not so long ago, so if you want more expansive thoughts on this Swedish insanity, then I recommend that you check that video out. But basically, Evil Ed is a horror comedy that takes inspiration from the early movies of Peter Jackson, and of course Evil Dead. The Swedes are able to deliver delightfully fun special effects, some awesome creatures, blood-gushing kill scenes, and a great anti-hero in Ed, played by Johan Rudbeck. It does lose some steam at the very end, but if you want a funny horror film with enough blood and guts to fill up entire IKEA warehouses, then look no further, as Evil Ed will have you covered. Covered is also a description that can be used for the 3-disc release Arrow did of it, so that's a Blu-ray set that I can recommend if I convinced you enough to check out Evil Ed.
Rest in pieces, motherfucker.
We go from funny violence to serious, depressing violence, with our number 3 spot that's coming all the way from Japan and is called All Night Long Part 2. The second entry to this shocker of a movie series is perhaps also the strongest one, at least from the ones I've watched so far. We follow the tragic events that sees the shy loner Shinichi become blackmailed by a gang of violent thugs, led by a sadistic young man that could rival Patrick Bateman in gruesomeness. After a period of psychological torture and manipulation, the gang decides to push the limits beyond redemption by making a visit to Shinichi that will, of course, last all night long. When I rewatched All Night Long 2 earlier this year, I was taken back by how much it got under my skin, which resulted in this being another movie from this list that I've dedicated a full video to. Director Katsuya Matsumara managed something few others are able to, in that he could take this low-budget production and turn it into one of the most depressing experiences that I can remember sitting through. There is a sad feel of hopelessness from start to finish, making this an uncomfortable movie to watch that will leave you emotionally drained. So if you're feeling happy one day and want to change that positive mood, then check this low-budget Japanese shocker out. It is a strong one, so consider yourself warned before pressing play on All Night Long Part 2. We are now at the runner-up spot, and this is one that I'm sure the majority of horror fans out there would have liked to see at the very top. As at number 2 we have Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight. This was the first attempt by Universal to bring the much beloved Crypt Keeper to the big screen, and what a successful attempt it was. William Sadler stars as a guy named Breaker. He is on the run and seeks shelter in a bed and breakfast that is located in an abandoned church. The guy who is chasing him is a mysterious yet energetic guy played by Billy Zane, who will give all the current visitors to this hotel a night they will never forget. That is, if they can make it out of the night alive. Demon Knight is a lot of fun, and it's easy to see why this has turned out to become such a favorite amongst horror fans. It has a bit of everything, which makes it a perfect movie to see on the big screen with a full audience. Everyone in it gives fun performances, and Billy Zane has even said that this is his favorite work. The special effects and horror elements are all lovely, making Demon Knight into a film that I can easily recommend to all kinds of horror fans that are out there, and I will totally understand it if viewers would have wanted to see this at the very top. But since this is my list, Demon Knight ends up as the second best horror film of 1995.
Demon Knight.
They're here! The demons are here!
And ladies, if you think Demon Knight is too gross and yucky...
Whoa!
Thank you!
So what could possibly steal this spot from Demon Knight? Well, let me introduce you to the crazy Spanish director Alex de la Iglesia and his fantastic action-packed black comedy horror that I feel deserves to be the #1 horror movie of 1995, and that honor goes to The Day of the Beast. A Catholic priest has uncovered the secret that the Antichrist will be born on the following Christmas Day, and this unholy creation will eventually lead to the big final apocalypse. How does this priest take the unsettling news? Well, he decides to become the biggest sinner he can be, to hopefully meet and strike a deal with the devil himself. And the only help he has on this insane mission is his new 2 friends, a metalhead and a TV psychic. Day of the Beast is filled with energy, and De La Iglesia doesn't let a single scene go to waste, as he wants to grab you, keep hold of you, and only barely release you once the credit starts to roll. He mixes every genre he wants and creates a highly entertaining movie that I cannot recommend enough. Every actor involved is great, the violence is awesome, and the comedy is hilarious. And even though it is funny, very funny in fact, De La Iglesia does not forget the horror parts either. It's no wonder that he has gained such a cult following over the years, and if you're a fan of creative, talented filmmakers that not only take the craft seriously, but also puts your viewing pleasure above anything else, then he is your man, and I cannot think of a better way to become familiar with him than to check out The Day of the Beast. Maybe it is not horror enough for some, but I will stand by my choice and will gladly crown The Day of the Beast as the best horror movie of 1995. That's my final say on the year of 1995. What are your thoughts on my chosen top 10? And which horror movies that I left out do you think deserves to make it into this list? If you got the time, then I would love to read your own top 10 from this year, so get your fingers going on the keyboard and let your thoughts be heard in the comment section below. The work has already started on my video for 1996, so if you know of any unknown gems that I need to check out before compiling my list together, then now is the time to let me know. I hope this was an entertaining video for you to sit through, and that you perhaps found some good horror to add to your watch list. Maybe you will even leave a like and subscribe to my channel, who knows? I wish you a great day wherever in the world you are, and I hope to see you again for more horror related content here on CinemaTerror. Thank you for watching.